All right, so this view does not get old, and for the past couple of days we've been using this brand new bike, the CFMOTO 450 MT, here in the beautiful island of Palawan. So let's learn more about the unicorn in this episode of Beyond the Ride. Look at my director, it's Direct Sid.
I believe the 450s of CFMOTO are its bread and butter, with the new NK, SR, and CLC. They have been my favorite motorcycles from the manufacturer, until now. This MT450 is powered by the same 449cc 270-degree crankshaft parallel twin engine that punches out 44 horsepower at 8,500 RPM, and 44 Nm of torque at 6,250 RPM. That may not sound like much to some, but keep in mind, this is a lower displacement motorcycle, and honestly, riding on the open roads in Palawan for several days, it seemed adequate enough. Now there's not that much power up top, but for the type of bike that it is, it's really, honestly in my opinion, not that necessary. You do get loads down low and in the mid-range. Now you get pretty good adjustable Kayaba suspension front and rear, and for someone my weight, which is give or take 145 pounds, the bike was fine out of the box. Although I probably should have made it a little bit stiffer for the road riding that we did. The J1 brakes are decent as well. For the front, 320mm single disc, and for the rear, you get a 240mm single disc. It does come with ABS and TC, which of course you can adjust when you go off-road. It comes with CST tires, 21s on the front and 18s for the rear. It is tubeless, which is debatable if that's better or not for hardcore off-road riding. But for me, it's actually better, at least for the type of riding that I would do with this bike. The fuel tank capacity is 17.5 liters, and with the road trip we did, we got just about 21 kilometers per liter, which might not sound great for a 450cc bike, but we did kind of push the bikes on the road, redlining it for long stretches. And also consider it's got a 270-degree crank, which would also use just a little bit more fuel. Overall, for the road riding that we did for the several days that we used the bike, it was very good. Not excellent, but considering the price tag, it was solid. Now, I've been to many international launches around the world, but CFMOTO and their local partners did an exceptional job for the global launch of the MT450, attended by hundreds of journalists and personalities from all over the globe, here in El Nido, Palawan, Philippines.
The significance of the launch of CFMOTO here in the Philippines is pretty massive because they don't just launch a bike in some random place. They really choose a market where they believe the bike will sell really well. And the 450 MT is a bike they expect to sell well around the world. And this has never been done before. We have never had a global launch of any vehicle, be it car or motorcycle, in the Philippines. So you have people from all over the world right here for this bike. So allow me to try and explain where I believe the MT450 lies in the spectrum of adventure riding. Let's pretend that this line right here represents adventure riding. On one end, you have the little XRM 125, and then over here on the other end, you have the BMW GS 1300. Now, in between this, there's a whole bunch of bikes that people would like to take on-road and off-road as well. Starting with maybe the Kawasaki XLR, Yamaha XTZ, Honda CRF. And then when you get to the bigger CRF, the Honda CRF 350, that's a pretty good bike, but in the Philippines, it's not expressway legal. Let's move over back to the other side. After the GS 1300, you can probably put the Ducati Desert X, maybe the Norden 901 or the KTM 890, depending which one you want, which one you like better. And then after that, you have probably the Honda Africa Twin. Now let's get back to this side. Over here, you will probably see the KTM 390 Adventure, which is actually fairly close to the CFMOTO MT450. You also have the Royal Enfield Himalayan. So over here, we have the Tenere 700, which many people would imagine to be the bike to take on-road and off-road. However, not everybody is a Paul Tares. So what is between the KTM 390 Adventure, Royal Enfield Himalayan, and the T7? Well, that's the sweet spot right here in the middle. And that is where I believe the CFMOTO MT450 belongs.
Palawan has fast become one of my favorite riding destinations in the world. You get a lot of open road, good twisties, awesome destinations, and some pretty solid off-road. Yes, it was hot and dusty, but you have to take the bad with the good. For the off-road riding we did on this trip, I normally would rather take a 150cc dirt bike, but I did feel the 450 MT handled it very well. The tires aren't that aggressive, kind of like a copy of the Pirelli SDRs, but it was decent enough for what we did, which was a lot of back roads, some water crossings, steep hills, and some pretty deep dirt tracks. With a dry weight of 175 kilograms and a wet weight of close to 200 kilograms, it may seem a little much for a 450cc displacement, but it honestly didn't feel that heavy. Much of the weight was felt lower to the ground, which is great for off-roading. The bike was stable, predictable, and confidence-inspiring on the dirt. And because it's not too tall, I could reach the ground no problem if I needed to. Now I admit, I did drop the bike once on our way down to Moon Beach, which was, it had a lot of rocks, it had some ruts, it was kind of dusty, and I'm also just not that skilled. Well, the bike took the beating and kept on ticking. Of course, the crash guards helped, but there's no scratches on the motorcycle itself, and the build feels very solid. A lot of people have asked me if this is as good as the Tenere 700, which I feel is a strange question. The T7 is the superior bike, let me get that straight. However, I felt more like Paul Tares on the MT than I do when I ride my own bike, for several reasons. First, I'm not as tall as Paul Tares, which makes it difficult for me to ride a T7 on uneven terrain or even in Manila traffic. Because there have been many times that once my foot gets to be able to touch the ground, the bike is leaned over too much already, past the point of no return. And perhaps the main reason is just, well, obviously I'm not as good an off-road rider as Paul Tares. Although I don't think there are many who come close anyway. So yeah, the 450 MT is kinda like a baby T7 for not great off-road riders. Now, if the off-roading around the island wasn't challenging enough, CFMOTO created an adventure park with different levels of difficulty. After flying through level 1 and some pretty hardcore convincing or being boodled, as they say here in the Philippines, I tried my luck on level 2, which I actually got through without dropping the bike. Achievement unlocked. I do think the bike helped me out a lot. The predictability and the confidence I got from it got me through the difficult terrain. I wanted to end the day with a win, so I didn't even think about doing level 3.
All right, so we had just had a full day of riding here in beautiful El Nido with this CFMOTO 450 MT. Some on-road, a lot of off-road, and even a crazy dirt track. And I gotta say, the bike handled it absolutely perfect. I mean, it was fast enough on the highways, at least here in the island in Palawan. And when it got to the off-road part, it was more than capable. It's also a very light bike. So because of that, even if you drop the bike, you don't freak out too much because it's kind of easy to lift. And you know, the bike itself, just the looks alone, if you look at the bike, I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I really do. I love the styling. I love even the colorway. This is the CFMOTO colorway. There's another one that comes in gray, gray and black, and that's nice too. But this is for me, my preferred because this is the CFMOTO colors. As an owner of a Tenere 700, I have to say this kind of reminds me of a baby version of a T7. I mean, the styling is kind of similar. You got the 270-degree crank for the engine. Of course, this is a 450. The T7 is a 700. It's really something that I would enjoy for everyday riding, for off-road riding, and for riding here in Palawan. Yes, it's going to be a little bit when you're on the highway, especially in freeway speeds. It might be a little bit on the slower side, but that's okay. I mean, if you're following the speed limit, it should be enough. If you're more of an off-road type of rider, you'd probably choose the high fender. It does come also with a low fender, which is I think looks better, but the high fender is probably a little bit more useful. The tires, even that is very T7. It looks like the STRs that the T7 comes with, the same tread pattern as that bike. The rims, in fact, the rims kind of remind me of BMW rims, the GS rims. They're tubeless, but they're spoked. And if you see the spoke, they actually go on the outside, close to the lip area. I really do enjoy it. I think at the speeds that you need to go on the expressway, it may come a little bit short, but aside from that, the bike is fantastic. It really is awesome. Another thing that I like about it, if you're on the highway and if you're in and you decide, okay, it's time to go off-road. So you go off-road, you can actually turn off the ABS on the fly. You don't need to stop. So you can actually, you know, you're riding, you're moving, and then you see you're about to hit off-road. All you gotta do is press this little button right here, and it's gonna turn off the ABS, and you're in off-road mode. Another thing that I like about it is that you can also turn in the side mirrors like that. So if you're gonna go off-road, you know, you're gonna drop the bike, you need to protect the mirrors. It's nice that you're able to do that. And then when you hit the pavement again, you just pull it back out and off you go. Now this is also adjustable, and you can put it up and down pretty easy with one hand, not a problem whatsoever. The buttons, if you talk about the switches right here, the buttons on the handlebar, it has a very premium feel to it. Considering the price tag of the bike, it doesn't feel budget. It does not feel budget whatsoever. I mean, CFMOTO has done wonders with this motorcycle. So it's no surprise back in 2023 in EICMA in Milan, when they launched this bike, it was actually one of the best attended launches in the entire show. It was actually pretty impressive. Now the dash itself, the TFT, I think it's pretty good. I mean, it's nothing out of the ordinary. It's very easy to read. Under direct sunlight, not a problem whatsoever. You can, you know, go to the different parts of the menu with the controls right here on the left side of the bike. And I mean, it's just a bike. Again, it's a bike that you can use every day, that you can use at decent highway speeds. And if you go off-road, it's definitely more than capable. In fact, when I was off-roading with this bike, in all honesty, it didn't feel like an ADV. It almost felt like I was on a dirt bike or a dual sport of some sort. It did not feel like I was on an adventure bike, and that is something that's really special. Now the foot pegs right here, this one has rubber on it, and if you are gonna go a little bit more hardcore off-road, you probably wanna take that off, which is not a problem whatsoever, as you can see. And then when you get back on the road, all you gotta do is pop it back in. and it's not gonna be an issue. The standard seat height of the bike is 820 millimeters. I'm 5'6" with a 764 millimeter inseam, and it is not an issue whatsoever, as you can see. Very approachable. In fact, if there's anything about the bike that I want to stress, it's a approachable adventure bike. It's an approachable Tenere 700 that is, well, kind of looks like it in all honesty. The seat itself, we've been riding for, I don't know, pretty much the entire day, from morning all the way to late afternoon. The sun is about to set here, and it's very comfortable. In fact, the seat height, you have a choice of 800, 820, and 870 if I'm not mistaken. And even the 870, that seat height, I can still reach the ground, not an issue, even with my ADV boots. But the seat is so plush, it feels like it's memory foam. The suspension of the bike is pretty solid as well. I mean, I'm about 145 pounds, 145, 150 pounds, depending on what day it is. And the suspension is good on road. Off road, it worked pretty well. I'm sure I can adjust it a little bit more if I needed to, but out of the box, out of the showroom floor, I thought the suspension was actually adequate for somebody my size and my weight. It was easy to stand on the bike. Even stuff like the brake pedal right here. I mean, I'm gonna get a close-up of that. It actually turns so that if you drop the bike, or when you drop the bike, because you probably will if you take it off-road, it's safe because they thought of everything. They really did think of everything with this bike. It's a very confidence-inspiring motorcycle. Even today, I did a pretty, at least in my opinion, a very hardcore dirt track. And it was a little bit freaky. In fact, I didn't want to do it. I kind of just so happened to try it out. And when I did, and with this bike, it actually managed it really well. I'm so shocked at it. And one of the reasons why is because the seat height is not very tall. Again, 820 millimeters. So I didn't have any issues reaching the ground. It's like I'm driving, or it's like I'm riding a dirt bike with adventure bike comfort and styling. I mean, unicorn. CFMOTO nailed it with the 450 MT. Well, CFMOTO, you guys have outdone yourselves, not just with this fantastic event held here in El Nido, Palawan, Philippines, but also with this motorcycle, the CFMOTO 450 MT. For 328,900 Philippine pesos, you get yourselves the best entry-level adventure bike out in the market today. It's fantastic, and I can see why it's called the unicorn. For more information about this bike and other MTs out there, log on www.motodeal.com.ph. I'm Jinno Rufino. Hope you guys enjoyed going beyond the ride. From El Nido, Palawan!